Good afternoon, students. Today I will start a new chapter, that is the growth of nationalism. This is the second chapter of class 10. So our first chapter was the first war of independence. Now in the first war of independence, one of the most important impact was among the Indians was the growth of nationalism. So first we have to understand what is nationalism. Now nationalism is the feeling or the love for one's own country, which is known as nationalism, and it can be considered as one of the strongest political forces in the history of the world in the 19th and the 20th century. This has led the people to fight for their motherland. It is often been a motivating force behind a country's struggle for independence. So nationalism, if it is developed among the people, ultimately one day they will definitely achieve their independence from the foreign rule. So nationalism was one of the most important factor. In the first war of independence, we have seen that the war of independence was a failure, but it fostered among the Indians a feeling of unity and a common hatred towards the British. This common unity will ultimately lead the Indians to achieve their independence. And once the people of the country are united, their common goal is to achieve independence from the British. So British becomes the common enemy. They became politically conscious. The Indians became politically conscious to give rise to an awakening which led to the national movement. So now in the later half of the 1857 revolt, we have seen that the people were no longer afraid of the Britishers. Now they have gathered and strength courage. They have gathered strength and courage to fight back the Britishers. The rise of national consciousness in the 19th century was essentially the result of the economic, political and social changes brought about by the British rule. It had led to the oppression of all classes of people, giving rise to the widespread dissatisfaction among the Indian masses. So as I always say, that there is a limit of everything. When the people keep on tolerating, at one time the people will burst. So because of the British changes, there was a lot of political, socio and economic changes in the Indian society. So it led to the oppression of all classes of people. People from different sections of life were oppressed by the Britishers. Now today, what we will do, I will just give you a brief description of the chapter, and tomorrow we have a class. In that class we will discuss in detail. The first point is growth of nationalism in India. So what were the various causes that led to the growth of nationalism in India? So hope by now all of you have understood what is nationalism. Nationalism is a feeling of oneness or the love for one's own country. But extreme nationalism and nationalism, there is a difference. Extreme nationalism means when a country loves its own country at the sake of some other country, that is known as extreme nationalism or militant nationalism. As you will see that when we will read about the chapter of Adolf Hitler at the cost of his own country, he was oppressive towards others. That is known as militant nationalism. But we, the Indians, we were, in our country, the people's love was the main cause, and they wanted freedom from the British control. Now, first of all, we will discuss what were the factors that led to the growth of nationalism. The first point is exploitative nature of the Britishers. In the first chapter also, hopefully I have said that India was converted to a raw material supplier to the industrial England, and Britain finished Britain with the help of the machine finished the goods and brought it back to India and sold it at a high price. Now, when the Britishers came to India, India's economy was disastrous. I mean to say that when the Britishers came, at that time India's economy was self-sufficient economy, but gradually the Britishers adopted a policy of destruction of the local self-sufficient economy and introduced modern industries and trade. That led to the decline of the Indian self-sufficient industries. Our industries gradually started to decline. This was number one. Secondly, on the effect of agriculture, the British tax collectors were very harsh. The taxes and the land revenue to be paid by the peasants were exorbitant. That means it was a very high tax. It was a very high tax to be paid by the British, to be paid by the Indians to the British. The system of land revenue created a group of money lenders who oppressed the poor peasants by lending to them at high interest. Now, as I said that the Britishers were very merciless in collecting their taxes. So what they did, even if the conditions were not good, that means even if there was drought or flood, but the farmers or the peasants were bound to pay the taxes. They were bound to pay the taxes. So as a matter of fact, when these poor peasants were not in a position to pay the taxes, they took loan from a group of people who were known as the money lenders. And these money lenders exploited to the maximum possible extent by giving money to these poor farmers at a very high rate of interest. Now these poor cultivators could not repay those high interest and ultimately submitted to the money lenders, and the money lenders at a point of time took away their land because of the failure of these peasants to pay back the money. So in this way, this group of people, the money lenders and the jamindars, they became richer and richer, and these poor people became much poorer. Hope all of you have understood. During the British rule, there was a major shift from the growth of food grains to the cultivation of cash crop, because the Britishers felt that they would earn more profit by growing cash crop. What was this cash crop? And the Indian farmers were compelled, they were bound to grow cash crops, which was more beneficial for the British merchant. So agriculture also severely affected, and the Britishers did your commercialization of agriculture. Commercialization of agriculture means they started growing such type of things by selling which they earned huge amount of profit. Now the poor farmers, they used to grow their food crops, but they were not allowed to grow and they were compelled to grow indigo. Now the problem with indigo was growing indigo in a plot of land for which the Indian farmers were paid very little amount of money. And secondly, the land in which your indigo was cultivated, the land lost its fertility. So in this way, the Britishers ruined the Indian agriculture. Second, first of all, we have seen the Indian agriculture. Then what was the effect on the Indian handicraft industry? The traditional handicraft industry also received a major setback. The British totally destroyed the Indian industries. Heavy duties, how did they destroy? Now you see, heavy duties or heavy taxes were imposed on goods imported to England, so that when goods reach England, the price would be so high that the people will not buy. On the other hand, the goods that came from Britain to India, there was little or no tax imposed upon it. So naturally, people purchased goods which were at low price. And secondly, Britain made machine-made goods, and machine-made goods were much durable and stronger. So the Britishers started pouring into India duty-free or at a very nominal rate. This policy of one-way free trade made the Indian handicraft industry lose its market. So hope all of you have understood that when Indian goods went to outside, heavy taxes were imposed. So the people who the buyers will not be attracted because the price would already be high. On the other hand, when the British goods came to India, very little or no tax was imposed on it. And next one is the draining of resources. Indian resources. The British rulers transformed India into a supplier of cheap raw cotton in order to provide for the textile mills in England. The most important of them were the cotton mills of Lancashire. As a result, this one-way flow of wealth. Now the Indian cotton was taken away outside and the flow of wealth continued till the independence of India. As a result of this draining of resources, Dadabhai Naoroji, he wrote a book, Poverty and Un-British Rule in India, in which he really exposed the true character of the Britishers. So today, dear students, we will do up to this. Tomorrow we have a class and we will discuss this in detail. Till then, all of you take care of yourself, stay safe, stay healthy, goodbye.